Hi everyone, my name is Troy Burke, and I'd like to thank you all for being here for this opportunity to share what is a compelling story that needs to be understood, and where applicable, the lessons from it applied to disaster relief into the future. This talk is going to give you an overview of how the OpenStreetMap community organized themselves across the planet to create maps that helped first responders on the ground in Haiti do their job more effectively and in turn save lives. A little bit about my own experience with OpenStreetMap. I've been involved since 2007. I collect OpenStreetMap data and contribute to it. I also organize mapping parties in Canberra, where I'm currently based, and I've provided input into the Government 2.0 Task Force for Australia, and I'm also one of the founding members of the Australia-New Zealand chapter of the Open Source Geospatial Foundation. I also serve as a volunteer and a coordinator in a GIS corps that helps emergency services during state and national emergencies in Australia. In this capacity, back in 2009, we helped Victoria Police, assisting them in mapping the initial impact of the Black Saturday bushfires, which led to over 170 fatalities. And subsequently, we created maps, and we have been deployed to a number of bushfire emergencies across Australia. For those of you who are here and have Twitter accounts, you may want to use this hashtag for sending me any questions, and you can use my handle, that's Sadman. Let me begin by introducing what OpenStreetMap is, but I will do so by beginning in a somewhat unexpected place, namely British East Africa. This stamp has the Sultan of Zanzibar, whose name was Said bin Burgeish, on it, who until 1986 controlled substantial portions of East African coast. But by 1890, thanks to some creative diplomacy on part of the colonial powers, this was limited to a 10-mile stretch of land. So the British East Africa, like most colonial presence in Africa, began with trade concessions. Here's a map showing the demarcation of the boundary between German East Africa and British East Africa throughout World War I, while most of the world was focused on the European front. There was a bloody war going on in East Africa with Germans and the British trying to take control of the valuable coastal towns and the trade routes to Africa's resource-rich interior. In this war, the British recruited indigenous Nubian soldiers, which is present-day Sudan and Egypt, into a regiment known as the King's African Rifles. These soldiers in this photograph are most likely of Nubian descent. It mentions the Sudanese connection up at the top, where the two crosses are. After World War I, the British wanted to reward the Nubians for their loyalty and contribution to the Allies' victory in Africa. So as a favor, they gave them land about 7 kilometers southwest of the center of Nairobi for settlement. This settlement came to be known as Kibra, meaning jungle. At this time, Nairobi was a small but rapidly growing railway depot. This photograph is of the railway that ran from Mombasa on the coast and wound its way into Africa's interior. Interestingly, this map from 1902 doesn't even mention Nairobi. However, it does have the train route marked on it. Nairobi, by this time, had its indigenous population of nomadic Maasai displaced. And the British, who gave the Nubians this land, despite their good intentions, never actually gave the Nubians the deeds to this land. So the region which they settled on, namely Kibra, and later came to be known as Kibera, from the earliest maps, and this is a map showing from the 70s showing Nairobi, we see that Kibera is shown as a series of huts. Fast forward to today, Kibera is one of the largest slums in Africa, second largest in Africa, one of the largest in the world. It's built on human refuse, like most slums, has no sanitation. It's estimated that 1/5 of Kenya's 2.2 million HIV population live in Kibera. And there's estimated to be about 1.2 million people living in Kibera, although I've seen estimates that vary vastly from 800,000 through to 1.2 million. And people living here are from diverse ethnic, tribal, and religious backgrounds, largely due to urbanization. Yet, for a region that houses 1/3 of Nairobi's population, it has oddly been excluded from Nairobi's official urban planning process. Kenyan government officially owns the land upon which Kibera stands today, though it continues not to officially acknowledge the settlement. Hence, the basic services, schools, clinics, running water, or lavatories are not publicly provided, and what services do exist are privately owned. In order to have a meaningful conversation about the problems that the people of Kibera face, it would be very useful to have a detailed map or a detailed knowledge of where everything is in Kibera. So, what about a map? What you would think that a part of a city that houses 1/3 of its population would be visible on Google Maps, right? Wrong. This is a map showing Google Maps tiles accessed on the 6th of March 2010. It doesn't look like a place housing over 1.2 million people. This is a map that was created over a period of 2 weeks in November 2009 by the residents of Kibera using paper and low-cost handheld GPS units. The project was initiated with the help of volunteers from OpenStreetMap community, mainly Mikkel Marin and Erica Hagen. So just to show you the map data from OpenStreetMap, the map on the right, is free and open. No one has to pay for it. It's openly accessible in a large number of common formats. The map on the left is closed, is proprietary, and is only available as image tiles through Google's Maps. And as I said, any conversation about tackling the myriad of challenges has to involve the local population. And these maps were created with the help of volunteers who had never mapped previously and had been trained over a period of a few weeks. With the creation of this map, the residents and business owners of Kibera can at the very least now have some information about their claim as longtime residents on the land, and have an informed discussion on how to improve the lives of Kibera's residents. These are volunteers who had never mapped before, so it's really quite remarkable that in 2 weeks they were able to map with the help of Erica and Mikkel. So with that detour to demonstrate the use of OpenStreetMap by communities to do participatory mapping, let me ask for a show of hand of who here hasn't heard of OpenStreetMap yet. Okay, there's quite a few of you. OpenStreetMap is based on the philosophy that if you create a map of your street and I create a map of my street, we all have a better map. Yet, to put it in context, OpenStreetMap allows any one of you in this theater to zoom into their neighborhoods and find that dangerous pothole that only you know about, and add it to the map database. OpenStreetMap doesn't discriminate between someone living in Canberra or Kibera. If you know what Wikipedia is, it's a bit like Wikipedia for maps. Wikipedia, if you don't know, is an online encyclopedia that anyone can edit, that anyone is free to use as they please. And like Wikipedia, anyone can create, update, edit, and use the maps and the data from OpenStreetMap. So how did these edits happen? Simply by using the online or offline editing tools provided by OpenStreetMap. It allows you to underlay imagery, and here's the editor being used to trace outlines of buildings. The growth of OpenStreetMap is another remarkable story. It's since its inception 5 years, it's been an exponential growth. It now has over 200,000 registered users, and the data is also exponentially increasing with over 400 million nodes. And as I said, we hold mapping parties here in Canberra. We held one just a few weeks ago, which on the 20th of March, and we mapped the Australian Botanical Gardens, which before the party looked something like this, and after the party had a lot more detail. Let me just give you a quick background on the geographic setting of Haiti. Haiti and the island of Hispaniola have the northern boundary of the Caribbean and North American plates running right through it. The earthquake occurred on a fault system between the North American and the Caribbean tectonic plate boundary, which forms a strike-slip fault. The quake occurred in the vicinity of the northern boundary, where the Caribbean tectonic plate shifts eastward relative to the North American plate by about 20 millimeters. The strike-slip fault system in this region has two branches: the septentrional fault in the north, in the top, and the Enriquello-Platian Garden Fault in the south. Both the earthquake's location and its focal mechanism suggested that the January 2010 earthquake was caused by the rupture of the Enriquello-Platian Garden Fault, which had been locked solid for over 250 years, gathering stress. And that stress was ultimately released on the 12th of January 2010 with one major earthquake and then a series of aftershocks, as can be seen from the smaller dots and then the major big red dot. The preliminary analysis of the slip distribution found amplitudes of about 4 meters or 13 feet around using ground motion records from all over the world. So how did OpenStreetMap come into play during Haiti, and how was it used? So it was actually used in many ways, so I'll answer this question by breaking my presentation down into 3 general sections which reflect the 3 phases of the mapping effort and are symbolized by these 3 colors. The red being one between the first week after the earthquake, when most of the edits were going on in OpenStreetMap. The blue being the period when the applications and data products were being developed and being shipped for use by first responders. And response here refers to activities that occurred during and immediately after the disaster. And they were designed to provide emergency assistance to victims and to reduce likelihood of secondary damage, so things like removing rubble, pulling people out of the rubble, providing first aid and emergency medical and food supplies. Thirdly, the green is what is happening with that data now. What are the lessons? How can we do it better in the future? What mitigation activities can OpenStreetMap help with? What preparedness tools are available to local emergency authorities? So it's starting with the red, I will describe how the mapping was carried out in the first few days of the earthquake and how it was coordinated. The earthquake occurred around 5 p.m. local time, just 15 kilometers southwest of the capital of the Port-au-Prince. We see the first email on the OpenStreetMap within 6 hours, and it includes a wiki section, link to a wiki section started by Mikkel Marin, and a request by Mikkel to start contributing map data. The wiki section was under the OpenStreetMap's wiki and became the main source of documentation and documenting various aspects of the mapping effort, and it exists today as a great source of of information of how the activities unfolded. This is the map of the region surrounding Port-au-Prince day before the earthquake. This is a video showing the timeline of the edits in the region of Port-au-Prince. Each flash you see there is an edit being made. The blue shapes are the appearance of makeshift camps of people who had lost their homes to the earthquake. This is the map of the region just 2 days after the earthquake. And you can see already there's a lot of detail that's been added. This is another video showing the mapping in progress, showing the largest area surrounding Port-au-Prince. So the bottom left, you can see the time running in days, T minus 3, minus 2, 1. And now we start to see the edits. Day 3, day 5, day 8, and finally another video showing the whole of the island of Hispaniola. Day 4, day 8, This video is really interesting because it shows how the initial mapping occurred in the Port-au-Prince area, and then as imagery became available, spread to the outer regions and the more remote regions of the island. So getting back to the response, less than 12 hours after the initial setup of the wiki page from OpenStreetMap to collect the data, this email arrived, asking if a dedicated server could be set up for distributing the data in a format that can be used by first responders. In particular, a response asking for shapefiles. Within 12 hours of response, return came back simply pointing to the URL for the download server. Here is the server page, and it has shapefiles and Garmin base maps, as well as it refreshes every 5 minutes. Additionally, imagery became available through GOI and Digital Globe, as well as the World Bank, and gave them permission to use that imagery to trace in OpenStreetMap. Google made all their imagery available as well, a bit later than the World Bank and the GOI and Digital Globe. And they also hosted a lot of the imagery, post-earthquake imagery. And they gave explicit permission to trace over that imagery to the OpenStreetMap community. What do I mean by, sorry, this was followed by quickly setting up of a service that allowed digitizing of that imagery over the internet. And this was then used to interoperate with the tracing tools in OpenStreetMap. And by tracing, I mean the kind of imagery we're talking about is really 15 centimeter resolution, high resolution imagery, high enough to be able to distinguish damaged buildings from undamaged buildings. And we see here some of the imagery that was collected by the World Bank, the kind of resolution that we're talking about. And these map edits occurred simply by using the online tool that I showed earlier. Here's the tool being used to edit buildings, and in this instance, to tag a refugee camp. With so much data being gathered, the community needed some way of organizing post-disaster imagery, especially as they had promised to acknowledge the source that the data came from, that the map was being traced from. The wiki also gave the ability to all parts of the world to get involved. Here's the translation of the instructions on how to overlay and trace imagery in Japanese. Chris Schmidt set up the Haiti crisismap.org, which aggregated all the imagery and created a web interface. And it also gave a great place to check which web services were available for users to trace using OpenStreetMap. And like I said, just to iterate, the largest number of edits happened when the imagery became available in the early days of the disaster. So we see an increase in edits around the 16th, increase also in users. And again, here's the day before the earthquake, Port-au-Prince, and here it is on the 5th of February. Now, the interesting thing for some and shocking thing for others might be that none of the initial mappers had ever set foot in Haiti. Rather, the volunteers were distributed across the world, working collaboratively using the internet to trace over the imagery. Now, let me get into how the data was used in the response. The data being created was no ordinary data. It was specifically targeted to suit disaster response. It was tailor-made for helping volunteers with the information they would need on the ground in order to save as many lives as possible in the first few days of the earthquake. So after the street maps had been completed, visible damage was also mapped. These are some of the common tags that were used. So earthquake damage was tagged. This is one of the earliest damage maps that was created by the UN, and it used OpenStreetMap for its road information. As the word got around that the community of developers and geospatial volunteers were mapping Haiti, specific requests began to be routed via the Crisis Commons and the Crisis Mappers community, like this one from UN OCHA, asking that any makeshift camps be mapped. So how did the community go about doing something like this? Well, firstly, they quickly selected the vocabulary for the features that they were going to map. In most cases, they would try to find existing tags that would allow them to save time on configuring the tile renderer to show the new symbology. So here we see the new tag for spontaneous camp, but we also see an existing OpenStreetMap tag called tourism. So here's the campsite being shown. The same camp with the imagery in the background. Here you can see the edits, and you can see the history of the edits. And here you can see the editor in use. And here is the camp rendered as a tile image, and you can see the blue symbology for the camp. Here's some more of those spontaneous camps. So here's a map from UN OCHA, who originally requested the data asking for the spontaneous camps, summarizing the location of distribution points of water, and another one showing the distribution points of food. So in order to decide where to put distribution sites and what resources to allocate to them, you need to know the location and size of the camps, and these could be approximated from the initial map created by OpenStreetMap volunteers. Unfortunately, the size was never initially given allocated to the tags, but that would be something we will look at in the future uh, as part of the work with the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. Another important use of this data is in wayfinding and routing. OpenStreetMap data is routable. It's not like a shapefile where no topological relationships are present, but rather it's made up of nodes and edges connecting them. So OpenStreetMap data allows you to tag a road or segment of a road as impassable. This data can then be used by routing engines such as this one based on the Open Geospatial Consortium specification. And here's the obstacle that has been marked as impassable. And here I'm going to try and route from a camp to a hospital, and instead of going right, it turns left due to the roadblock, so we go around the barrier. This is me attempting the same route in Google Maps. One member of the Colombian mission in Haiti emailed the OpenStreetMap list telling them how they were able to use the map to allow them to find their way around Haiti. And we also got other feedback from this one from the Red Cross team on the ground, allowing them to find their way while driving around Haiti. This company, Invenio, was setting up a high-speed network between 11 agencies, NGOs that were working in Haiti, providing aid. They allowed staff of these agencies to use Skype and to make phone calls even before the phone networks were up. During the setup, the long-distance hi-fi network that they were setting up had to have line of sight. During their planning of the network, they needed GPS location, and they used OpenStreetMap data to find those places. Now let me show you some of the applications that were developed for the field teams in the time span of a few days for the Haiti earthquake. Garmin GPS apps in French note how the symbology allowed in identification of destroyed buildings and refugee camps and hospitals on your Garmin GPS. Garmin GPS, another Garmin GPS map. Gaia GPS iPhone app showed the locations of destroyed buildings as well as refugee camps. This app was put out on the 16th of January, only 4 days after the earthquake. It was available free for use in Haiti. Remember also that it shows OpenStreetMap as a background, and also and those are constantly being updated. Thus, it provides real-time data to responders on the ground. It works offline too, allowing you to download and cache the map tiles to your device before taking it out into the field. It allows recording of GPS tracks, waypoints, and geotagged photos. It allows you to import, export GPX tracks and photos, as well as it allows you to create waypoints along tracks. Another area where maps are critical in managing reports is in the managing of the reports of incidents and geocoding them and then making them actionable. Here OpenStreetMap provided data as well. So Shushahidi team set up an instance of Shushahidi in Haiti, and they initially started getting data from mainstream media outlets as well as Twitter and emails, and then or reports from news media of missing people and then they started to geocode them manually. But then eventually they reached out to the largest cell phone provider in Haiti called Digicel, who set up a short code where short code a mobile number, which citizens in Haiti could send an SMS to with their location and their needs. And this was also announced to via the operational radio stations that were in Haiti. And so the DJs were contacted. In fact, they were contacted face to face, and they were told about this short code. The Digicel provided 2.1 million Haitian subscribers $5 worth of credit so they could then use their mobile phone. And it all used OpenStreetMap as its base data. Northern Command officials visited USAID Situation Room in Tufts University and commend them for their work, told them to continue doing what they were doing. And these are the kind of reports that we're talking about. They were actioned. This is one where water was requested. And there's some more incident reports or more detailed reports that could be then followed along and could be actioned. These were some of the organizations that were monitoring the USAID feed. And you must all be wondering, how did the community collaborate on such a large mapping effort? So Crisis Commons is one of the forums that was that allowed volunteers who were interested in helping out during the disaster to come together during weekend events and get-togethers and build useful applications or map and assist in any way that they could. The volunteers, like I said before, were distributed and worked collaboratively. This was a crisis camp photograph from LA. With so much data being generated, data quality was certainly something that needed to be kept tabs on. But due to the open nature of the OpenStreetMap, the volunteers were able to build tools using the exposed interface of OpenStreetMap. So here's one such system which shows called OpenStreetBugs, which shows places where users have marked dubious data with comments on why it's suspect. With a single click, you can go to the editor and make a modification or a fix. You can also add comments and change the status in an issue to fixed. OpenStreetMap Trace Matrix was another system that allowed users to coordinate the editing and tracing of the imagery. So it broke up the whole regions into square blocks and then color-coded them a bit like a heat map with the color corresponding to the number of edits currently being carried out in that given square. So if there's a region that is heavily being edited, I can then concentrate on another region, thus allowing a mass collaboration to occur. This is another automated system that works out inconsistencies in the data based on logical rules. So for example, if you have a region tagged as land use, it should really be a closed area. If it's not, then the system will pick it up. Similarly, systems that allowed you to find stats on different tags, things like, think of tags like GIS layers. It allows direct links to the data from each of the tag types. Another system for the whole of OpenStreetMap with tags. So this approach of allowing simple interfaces to the data to harness potential input from public, from crowdsourced information is being recognized by the World Bank and other initiatives as well. So in the World Bank, in their GeoNode platform, hazard mapping platform, have added specific support for developers. Now let's get into some of the ways OpenStreetMap is contributing to the future of Haiti. Currently, camps are popping up and exist and are set up in an ad hoc manner. With the rainy season now approaching and almost here, the need to ensure that there is no risk of flooding. So here's a map set up by the by JRC, Joint Response Committee, I think it is, from the EU, who set up this report on camps at risk of flooding, and the initially displaced people who were at risk of flooding in Haiti were identified and located using OpenStreetMap as one of the input data sources. So the streams information came from OpenStreetMap, and that was then used to figure out whether they were likely to be flooded in case of of heavy rain. Okay, let me now briefly get into what is needed if we were to use OpenStreetMap workflow in collecting vulnerability assessment and building community resilience by collecting exposure data on earthquake buildings exposed to earthquake risk, or buildings that are vulnerable to an earthquake. Is important. An important aspect of preparedness of an earthquake is actually evaluating the building stock, particularly in terms of the structural vulnerability. So if properties of a building do not meet construction standards, occupants are at a risk of injury or death arising from the collapse of the building, which is exactly what happened in Haiti. One of the reasons why there was such a high level of destruction was the poor building quality of residential properties in Haiti. So these are the kind of information that is required to get some sort of an idea on the dwellings and the urban setting and the quality of the dwellings. Now you'll start to notice that this sort of vulnerability assessment data, some of it already exists in OpenStreetMap. We can start to see that there are tags that OpenStreetMap already has that can be used to work out some of this information. But the question then arises, how do you collect the information that's not there? And how do you do mass collaboration for creating the spatial information that is needed for vulnerability assessment? Well, let me just introduce walking papers. So if we were to go down this track of collecting information from the grassroots, paper still is a very useful tool for low-tech data gathering. Walking paper is an innovative solution which is based on the ability to encode information about the orientation of the map into the paper using an algorithm called SIFT, the Scale Invariant Feature Transform. So after taking this paper into the field and adding annotations about the buildings, we can then scan that paper and upload it into OpenStreetMap and then overlay it in the editor for adding the annotations from the scribbles to the map database. The only other ingredient is passionate mappers. Give them some training on what to look for in the case of construction classes, and off you go. And so it actually serves two purposes. Not only do you end up collecting high quality and high resolution data, but also it can inform the local population about the potential hazards in their local vicinity and help build local knowledge and build disaster resilience through knowledge. It's a sort of perfect project that could be initiated via school, via local schools through, say, geography classes or universities. So what's happening right now? Right now, OpenStreetMap has got a number of people currently on ground in Haiti, deployed through the humanitarian OpenStreetMap team. Their task is to ensure that reconstruction teams know that OpenStreetMap data is available, where applicable, utilize that information in the reconstruction efforts. They're also working with the Haitian National Mapping Agency to develop a comprehensive road network data set and other spatial data infrastructure type projects. It's also important to note that OpenStreetMap data doesn't just contain street data, it also has data on, for example, power grid. This is the whole a map showing the whole of the power grid of Germany. So let me end by stating some of the lessons that this has given to the spatial data infrastructure community. So one of the biggest challenges that the SDI projects face is involvement, is buy-in, ability to get people to use their data and give data to their community and improve the quality of the data and then also the use of the data. Well, this has shown, OpenStreetMap has shown that the lack of participation and well thought out access to data can actually be an inhibitor. So participation can improve the quality and also end up people contributing data back. So it's important to learn from OpenStreetMap of providing spatial data in a flexible and easy way, not only to access, but also to provide the data so that people can contribute it back. And again, like I said, this is being recognized by projects such as GeoNode through the World Bank. Why is this sort of thing important? Well, we all know that maps are useful. Thank you very much, and I'd like to just thank a number of people who gave me from Geosceince Australia, who gave me feedback, very valuable feedback into setting up this presentation. Please direct any questions to me. I'm open to questions now. Thank you.